listening to a 302 Birds podcast experience, proudly powered by Tick Pick, Cutbet, El Diablo Burritos, Nick's Pizza, and Klondike Kate's on the heart of Main Street.
There's nothing better than starting the podcast out after a Dallas Cowboys victory. I mean, it's always a close game. I wanted to say a beatdown, but I mean, let me hear it for our Birds. I mean, that was a good game.
Great game. Especially if you were not a fan of either team. I think it would have been really fun to watch.
I cannot hear a word you're saying, Jack. So what I'll do is I'll bring you back. But I mean, absolutely wild, thrilling game to the end. I mean, what more can you expect out of an NFC matchup? Very, very exciting. Let me try bringing my guy Jack back in here. You good now? Still nothing. Maybe try joining and coming back. But anyway, the show goes on. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of 302 Birds. I am Dalton, joined by Ash, Big Sean, Ballpark, Tommy. Mr. Matt is sick tonight, so we're wishing him well. And we got Jackson on the mic joining us soon. But I do want to jump right into our call-ins because we have a very special call-in for you tonight. And if you guys haven't noticed too, I'm in sort of a new studio. I'm in transition. The transition master himself.
Yes. Let's get that intro. Let's fucking go.
What do I want when I'm in the state of Delaware? Of course, El Diablo Burritos. Customer service always is serving your food with a smile on their face, asking how your day is. Their food is phenomenal as well. Their burritos are out of this world, one of the best burritos in town. Their queso is phenomenal. Their burrito bowls are amazing as well. When you're in and around Delaware, stop by your local El Diablo Burritos and tell them that 302 Birds sent you. God bless. Go Birds.
Well, thank you, El Diablo Burritos, for that sponsorship. We got my fraternity brother, who's actually in a real fraternity, Dalton, cough, cough. Dylan, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic. It's nice to finally get you on the show. I know you've been wanting to hop on. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you guys thinking about A.J. Brown this season in terms of his stats being somewhat historical?
Yeah, I mean I think very, very Megatron-like, as we all know. And I mean, obviously he broke his streak last game, but this dude's playing out of his mind. I think this guy is in the running for MVP for wide receiver. But I'm loving what I'm seeing from this guy. I'm loving what I see from this guy for sure.
Oh, definitely 100%. I think, honestly, he's killing it this season. I mean, I haven't seen an Eagles wide receiver do this in year. I don't think ever in my lifetime, other than T.O., which somewhat pains me to say.
Yeah, also, like, if you think back to the beginning of the season, too, he was struggling so much with, like, and had those words with Jalen Hurts on the sideline. And I think kind of him really figuring out and meshing with the new parts of this offense has just been so fun to watch. I love just watching him play and watching the chemistry that him and Jalen have is a lot of fun.
I love it. You know what I want to say, Dylan, to your fraternity brother? I want to say I told you so. Every time we bring up this guy's name, as long as he's a Philadelphia Eagle, I will not let my two closest friends, Jack and Josh, well, two of my closest friends, I should say. I have a good five, but these two guys I'm never going to let live this down. Point being, when he came to the team, I said that he would be better than Tia. He's exceeded that. That's done. That argument's out the window. Done. Finito. The point is, now we got bigger fish to fry, all right? We're looking at, like, top 3, undoubtedly, maybe top 2 wide receiver. I mean, it's Jerry Rice and Megatron, in my eyes, who are the 2 greatest wide receivers of all time. I mean, and look, there's no right or wrong answer. It's an opinionated. But the fact that he's up there with a player of this caliber just shows what he's doing. I mean, like our boy Uncle Tony has said, Megajawn. I mean, the dude is playing like a fucking transformer right now. And pardon my French, but he's just going off. And the way that he goes up for that ball, it's unhuman-like, and it's unlike anything I've ever seen before, like Dylan. And I think we better not take it for granted, because in another, 5 to 10 years, we could be in that drought again. It's really nice to know that when the ball's going to a player, even when he's like triple fucking covered, there's a good chance he's going to catch it, right? Like,
he's always open.
Yeah,
he's almost like a 7-Eleven. He's always open.
Yeah, but a lot of 7-Elevens are closing down, so I don't know if we want to give him that name. Yeah, I mean, he's having a monumental career or season this season, with being, going into week 10. And I'm excited to see what we can do, down this next couple of weeks with the Chiefs and what he can, amount to. So I'm excited. I mean, it is crazy to think that some guy that we took from the Tennessee Titans is in the talks with Megajawn and Jerry Rice. I mean, we can't not forget about, Tyreek Hill's up there too, but this man's playing out of his mind. AJ Brown, thank you for everything you've done. And I really think he, loves the city so far. And I think it was a good addition to the team.
Absolutely.
Well, you think he's going to be undoubtedly the greatest Eagles wide receiver by the end of the season? Like, are you I know Jack is not convinced yet. I mean, are you convinced after this season, Jack? Like, from what you've seen? So I get the whole one season argument. After one season, you're not ready to book the guy as the greatest, Eagles wide receiver of all time. But I mean, 2 seasons like this in the modern era of a wide receiver, are you ready to book your ticket yet for him to be the greatest Eagles wide receiver of all time? I am. I've been on the fucking train. You know that. Choo-choo.
I mean, Dylan, you want to take this? Sean, you want to take this? Go ahead, Sean. You haven't talked yet.
Yeah, I'll take it. So, yeah, no, I didn't get to talk yet. I'm also live on TikTok if anybody is listening to this. So hop into that at 302 Birds. But yeah, so I think he's having a historical season. And actually, at the beginning of the season, Dalton did say, quote unquote, hot take, saying, will he be better than T.O.? And in my opinion, yes, he will be better than T.O. He already is better than T.O. in an Eagles jersey. And yeah, like 2 seasons just doing this, but I mean, obviously this season's a lot better. Yeah, surpassing Megatron. He might be better than Megatron at all time eventually, but converting from going to being on the Titans, where you thought he was maybe a top 20 receiver in the league, maybe 15 if that, and then going from that to a top 2 receiver in the league is just mind-boggling to me. And yeah, like Jack said, I appreciate everything he's done for the Eagles so far, and I can't wait to see what this season pans out to be with him at the wing.
One last thing. I mean, okay, well, we're talking about T.O., okay? So I'm going to be devil's advocate, okay? So if we put T.O. on this team in his prime with A.J. Brown, who do you think would have a better season for 1 season? 1 season only. It's you unlock the character, and he's going to be playing in his prime on the Eagles this year. Who's going to be better? I don't know.
AJ, 100%. AJ.
Yeah,
Just
AJ.
the statue, like with AJ's build, I mean, we're talking AJ has probably 20, 30 pounds on T.O., and he moves, in my opinion, faster than T.O. I mean, he's just a specimen of a wide receiver. I mean, as much as I don't want to talk down about a great and T.O., because he is an all-time great wide receiver, I think AJ definitely would have a better season than T.O. right now on this roster.
I would agree.
Okay. Tommy, you seem pretty intense.
I don't know. I don't mean to
You
look
probably
intense,
zoned out.
I don't know, probably. But I'll tell you this much. To say he's the greatest Eagles wide receiver ever after season 2, I think I need to see more sustained success. Look at, and I know you want to stay all modern, Dutch, and I also know you have your handing in that you want him to be the greatest just because you want to still do your I called it, so to say, from 2 years ago. But I think you have to look at other factors. Like if you look at like Tommy McDonald, like that's a far back reach, but he played in an era where you didn't ever really throw to a wide receiver, and he took the league by storm. Like he modernized what the modern day wide receiver essentially became. in this league, and he brought multiple championships to this city. No offense to AJ Brown, but how many rings has he brought in now the 1-2 seasons? He came close last year, but he didn't bring a ring to the city. And I love AJ Brown, love what he's done. I love what he's doing to my fantasy team this year. I really love that too. But hey, it hasn't been over a sustained period of time. Now, let's say he does this. Well, just to throw a random number, like 4 or 5 seasons. Yeah, hands down. If he can do this for 3, 4, 5 seasons, like Megatron is the clear cut, like number 1 greatest receiver in Detroit, because he did it for 4, 5, 6 seasons there. If he can do it for 4, 5, 6 seasons in Philly, yeah, it's clear cut, and he could bring at least, I'm just going to say, 1 ring in a 6-season time span. I think he's got it.
If I can also say too, Megatron was working with a crap team.
Yo.
Yes, it was.
Hey, Tony!
Hey, Tony. Hey, Tony. How you doing, brother?
Hey,
Tony,
what's up with this
Tony the
Megajawn? Hey, is he going to be the greatest wide receiver of all time for the Eagles? Back me up.
Oh my God, you kidding me? He's like 3 TOs combined. Like, you ever watch the Power Rangers? It's like a bunch of TOs transforming into one big thing. You got a lot.
How you been, man? You looking good?
Good,
So Tony,
man.
I've heard through the grapevine that you're not working at my favorite spot anymore. What the hell?
Oh man, she put me on the spot. Well,
Yeah.
I guess this is the official press conference, right?
Yeah.
Well, shout out Geno's. 6 years there. I had a really good career, and I'm just like Brady, man. I'll eventually go back and have my shirt retired, but I'm out here bringing my talents all over. You know what I mean? So we're just having fun. It's all in good love. There's no bad blood. Just trying new things. But I love Geno's, but whether it's Geno or my old general managers or whoever, I'm my own boss. You know what I mean? So,
Well,
yeah. But I got to go there soon. We got to get some content. You know what I mean?
love that. And you know what I want to do is, I've been hearing through the grapevine, like Jack said, you cook a pretty mean cheesesteak yourself.
Yeah, I do. That's about like, cheesesteaks, hoagies, simple chicken cutlets, the simple things I could cook really good. You know what I mean?
Maybe some kind of tailgate or something we'll have to coordinate with you and Uncle Tony meeting up with me and Jackson, show us the ropes on how to make a nice chicken cutlet down at a tailgate.
Oh, yeah. You kidding me? We'll have a good time, man. How about this guy? I see you talking your smack all over. I love it. These Dallas fans, man, they're so delusional.
yeah, no. I was
Yeah.
I you couldn't hear me because I came on the show and my mic wasn't working. But I had
Right.
family in Dallas, right? And
Right.
after the game, they're all crying, bitching about, oh, we lost the game because of the refs, blah 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 blah, all this bullshit. And all I said was, ha ha, knew you would say that. So this big win for us going into the bye week. I really think that this W kind of put us on the map yet again, and we're 8-1. I'm sorry, 9-1 now. 8-1. My bad. 8-1 now, and I just think this team's getting better and better.
Oh yeah, and like
better.
everyone's complaining. They're saying, we've been sloppy all year. We have, right? But look at it this way: we're 8-1 and we're sloppy. Imagine if we were playing lights out. And
Right.
we're only 8-1. Like, it's not the end of the world. I hate to sound biased, but I think we're easily the best team in the league. Maybe neck to neck with the Chiefs, only because of Mahomes. But other than that, I think we're easily the best team in the league.
Agreed. Dylan, what do you have any remarks on this Dallas game?
I mean, I was at the Dallas game. Ended up getting some tickets at the last second there. My brother was supposed to go, but ended up taking them off of him. He didn't feel like going for some reason. I was like, this is sad, but can't let these tickets go to waste. Good amount of Dallas fans that I saw down there, actually, and it was very, very nice to see them leave sad. there were some actually sadly sitting right in front of us, and we tormented them the whole game. So it was very nice to see them go home upset.
Love to hear that. Love to hear. Any
right there.
takeaways from this game that you want to say?
What does kind of scare me is Dallas doesn't look bad, as much as I hate to say it. I mean, Dak is going to Dak, and we saw that on the last drive, last couple drives for them. I mean, stepping out on that 2-point, just really making terrible decisions. But the rest of the team, I mean, CD torched our secondary. That's one thing we really, really need to get going into the second half of the season here, because we can't keep letting that. I mean, our slot is decimated right now. And I mean, it's kind of sad that we're looking to Roby to come back when Roby started the season on the street. So that's the only part of this defense that's really scaring me right now is our secondary. And I mean, with Byard here, I mean, Byard's got to get a couple more weeks in him. I mean, that's just something that's got to happen. He's got to get used to playing here. He's coming from the Titans. But we really got to figure out the slot. And Bradbury looks slow, as much as I hate to say it. I love Bradbury, but he's looking a step slow.
Shout out Titans, man. They're taking care of us.
Hey, that's our development team now.
They're our new farm team.
What do you have any takeaways from this, Tony? From this week, from this Dallas week?
It sucks that Dallas hurt Dallas. I hope we need him soon. But he should be what? What do you think? A few weeks or so? Maybe longer?
I think I said 4 weeks or possibly longer.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's good to show good sportsmanship. Dallas is a decent team. They have a scary offense when they're clicking. But honestly, they only have a couple weapons. They're not a complete team. And Dak's a good quarterback, but he's not clutch. You've seen that. In the very end of the game, he got sacked, like 3 times?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that dimension where, he was out of bounds. You know what I mean? He's good, but he's not. I don't think he's elite.
And
then you got this.
Go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
Then you got these guys talking about Purdy and all that. They're good. They're not elite though, and it's crazy to see how Jalen kind of went from good to elite because he takes his craft serious and he trained with that what was that, quarterback coach or something like that. There was like a guru he was training with, something like that. I forget his name last season, but it shows because Hurts really has a passion for it. So it goes to show you, anyone, even Brady, people didn't believe in Brady years ago, and he proved everybody wrong. So anyone can become elite, but do you want to become elite? That's the real question. I mean, Dak's worried about what, 17-hour body tattoos. You gotta put your head in the game. So that's how I say.
Yeah, one takeaway that I noticed is it seemed like Tony Pollard was really kind of quiet. I mean, we were scared about him. He took Zeke's job this season, which he deserved it. He was playing great football. He still is, but our defense stopped Tony Pollard. And I feel like that Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb are the two-headed monster that are unstoppable. And it seemed to, even though CeeDee was getting burnt, that we stopped, Pollard. I think that's huge for us, that their elite running back, it can be stopped. So
did they call a touchdown against Pollard? Didn't they call that back? Or was that somebody else?
Was it Pollard or was it the tight end, Ferguson?
It might have been Ferguson. You're right. I think it was Ferguson. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, and that shit hit.
And I was saying Ferguson actually played a good game. He was trying, and what it is. But what about? Okay, look, they want to talk about refs. The one game I think we got a little lucky with the refs, and we'll take it because every team takes it. Was the Dolphins? We got a little lucky with that. The refs were on our side, but I don't think the refs were on our side against Dallas because it seemed like it was going, both. You know what I mean? They just got to make excuse after excuse.
I mean, they called for equal amount of penalties, but the Eagles had more yards and penalties. I think it was something
right,
86 to 74 or something like that. It wasn't a huge difference, but
it wasn't a big difference. Yeah,
but still, if there's anyone who could complain, it would be the Eagles that could complain because the refs called for greater amount of yards penalized against the Eagles.
Oh yeah,
I mean, still think that Bradbury PI at the end of the game. I don't think that was PI. The ball was underthrown by 5 yards, and he had Gallup jumping back into him. They called that for PI. I mean, if anyone's going to complain, I think it should be us on that one because that set the Cowboys up at, I think it was like the 15 or the 20.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't think the Cowboys fans have any room at all to talk about poor refereeing.
Also, last thing,
it's just been 30 years of excuses. They just need 30 years of excuses. That's all they live on anymore. I've seen less than a handful of Cowboys playoff wins in my lifetime. Like, they always talk about all these rings they have. I haven't seen one.
I have a good story about the only South Philadelphia born and raised Cowboy fan. I think we got to give him a pass. I'm going to try to interview this guy and maybe get him to you, Dolt. His name's Frank, too. He's an old head. He's probably like in his 50s, early 60s. Apparently, he lived next door to a current Eagle, I think, back in the 80s or the late 70s. And Frank used to, like, pick on the Eagles player's daughter. So that – I forget the Eagles player's name. I got to get his name. But he gripped a young Frank up by the chest and threatened him. So then young Frank told his father and his family, I'm going to root against the rival team. And then he just picked the Cowboys. So even though it's a little frowned upon, if I had to pick a good reason to like, dislike your hometown team, that's probably the best reason I've ever heard. So we'll have to get him on, get him on a nice interview. We can roast him afterwards. But
I would love to hear that perspective, though.
That's a true story, too, because I seen him today and he was talking about it. Like, an ex-Eagle actually gripped him up. So,
one last thing I want to say, and then we'll let Dylan and Uncle Tony out. What scared me was Bradbury. Bradbury was getting burnt. He was getting exposed. And he's been playing pretty good football all year. And then against Dallas, it just kind of like shit. Like, he got exposed, and we can't be having that. Down. These next couple of weeks after the bye. So that kind of scared me a little bit.
I agree.
That's all I got to say.
Definitely looked a step slow.
Yep.
Hey, Uncle Tony, before you go on your way out, I hope you see I'm rocking the B League team right here. I got the shirt on for the
That's our farm system. That's our farm system.
But right under, I'm always rocking the OGs. Right here, farm system, baby.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Titans.
The Delco Titans.
And Dylan, where can we find you to boost your brand at?
So mostly right now I'm on Instagram. Just started up a little bit ago. Just really starting to get in the game. You can find me at 302BIRDS banner on IG. I got my link in my bio there, and gonna have more coming out here in the next couple weeks, rolling it out, just getting adjusted with the move back home and all that stuff. So definitely some big things coming in the future. Hopefully gonna be doing a lot more with the boys here with Dalton and Jack and all them. So hopefully you'll be seeing a lot more of me soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate you
for sure.
on. Love you to death.
That's a good dude right there.
Yeah, I love the kid.
Tony, thank you for jumping on with us, too. I want to bring you in for a longer segment, but moreover, I'm going to shoot you a text to see when you might be able to tailgate.
We got to make that happen. Because now I got a little more freedom, so we got to make that happen.
I'd love that. And then we got to get Jack to bring his ass to the game, because I'll tell you this on your way out real quick. Jack got a girlfriend, man. He's cuffed up.
Cuffing season, yeah. Does she need a big boy? Is that what it's about? I need a big.
He's cuffed up, but in all seriousness, man, you gotta tell him his girl's a Ravens fan. Which, hey, that's fine. You know what I mean?
I got. Me and my friend have a fantasy league, and we got Lamar Jackson. So whatever, right?
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right,
thanks,
Tony.
man. Appreciate it, guys.
Love you.
Always a pleasure bringing him on. And thank you to Dylan, too, Jack, for introducing us to him. But we might cover the Dallas segment again in the end. Sorry about that, guys. We're just going to keep rolling through here. We are going to touch on the Phillies a little bit, but you guys know who I'm going to kick it to, your main attraction when it comes to that. Because there's been a lot that's happened with the Philadelphia Phillies over the past 24 hours. So time for Phillies talk with Bob Tommy. Ginger Stitch.
Good, Ditchy.
What's up, PPT?
Not much. So we have had a lot of developments over the last 24 hours. Learned Nola's agent at least is kind of throwing out vibes that he wants at least a $30 to $35 million deal over 7 years. I don't think, and it's looking less and less likely that the Phillies are his top suitor. It's looking more and more likely that like he could end up on like the Cardinals or the Cubs, and we could have seen the last of Nola this past NLCS. As and especially with it sounding like the Phillies are like very actively shopping like Eduardo Rodriguez, who was on the Tigers last year, and Sonny Gray, who was on the Twins last year. Here, it's looking less and less like it's looking more and more like Nola's days here in Philly are numbered.
So, do we think that's too much? I don't know. Is that a lot of money for over 7 years?
That's way too much money.
You got to look at the general market. So I would say in general, I'd agree with Sean. However, it's not a strong starting pitcher free agency market, and there's a lot of teams that are desperate for free agent starting pitching. And Nola isn't terrible of a starting pitcher, and he's pretty much elite in big games. Now he choked in Game 6 this year, but he's been pretty consistent, pretty reliable when it comes to the big games towards the end of the season in October and September when they matter most. So I think his agent's kind of reading the market of like, yeah, I could probably get 30 million for my guy because it's not a strong market this year. Last year was a very strong market. You had guys like Scherzer and Verlander also on the market. Nola might be the top starting pitcher besides Ohtani, and even then, we don't know if Ohtani's going to come back as a pitcher after having Tommy John surgery again. So Nola might be the top starting pitcher on the market.
Which is surprising to think.
Yeah, seriously.
Because like as you said, like he started out really slow and cold early on this season. So for him to, and then he popped off in the playoffs, for him to be like the number one target pitcher on the market is kind of interesting. That's very surprising.
But it's just because, as I said, like a lot of big name starting pitching free agents were on the market last offseason. It's not that there's not as many this season. And that's what's driving up his value. If this were a normal, like even just a normal offseason with an average amount of starting pitchers, I don't think he would be able to get around 30 million. But because it's kind of a weaker starting pitching free agency class this year, I think he could get 30 million. Like, I don't think that's unreasonable. That's an unreasonable thing to think that he could get.
This is just how I see it. So with this 7-year deal, that will put him at 38 years old because he's 30 right now. So he's going to be going into like the next year following. If you hear that, but so you're going to pay this guy $30 million a year, and maybe get 4 solid seasons out of him. And the rest you just have to keep it on the back burner. Now, it was different with Trey Turner and Bryce Harper because they're generational players. So, yeah, it was a lot different. But for a guy that's going to pitch every 5th day, it's not worth the 30 million, in my opinion. And I think he will take a pay cut to come back to Philly. But if there's teams out there offering him $10 to $15 million more than the Phillies, he's obviously going to walk. And it's going to be sad to see because I like Nola as a pitcher. He's a great pitcher, but like, yes, he has his ups and downs, but that's every pitcher in the MLB. So it's not just, not just the Phillies with that. So yeah, I mean, I think there's better options out there that you could sign for a little bit cheaper, and especially if you want to add to your bullpen like Josh Hader, I heard. So you could and you have Andrew Painter and Mick Abel coming up too. So you always have to just think in your head what prospects you actually have on the board.
Well, that being said, Andrew Painter won't be back till bare minimum July, if at all, next season. And he might honestly just do a full season in the minor leagues after having a major injury like he did last season. And as to when he got his Tommy John surgery, Mick Abel, you might be able to see him this year. But I'm not entirely sure we'll see him on the opening day roster. So you have to also think, who's going to be your starting pitchers come opening day?
Yeah, there's a lot to think about. And like, what's his name? Ryan Swoop said too, that 5-man, that might be a good point too, from my amateur perspective. I mean, with Nola being the top pitcher, maybe depth is more of an option. Who knows? But don't they also still have Taijuan Walker next year?
Yeah, but he stinks.
Well, hey, that's enough baseball for now. I know we got to keep the show rolling just because we have a bunch of guests, but hey, I actually have another Salesian gentleman who's coming on the show. I don't know if any of you guys knew this, but I'm bringing on an old buddy of ours. Surprise! If you guys don't remember, Mr. Ben Schadenhouse. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Dalton. How about you guys? Good seeing all y'all after all this time.
Great, man. Thanks for having us. Hey, I want to get your perspective real quick. This whole James Harden situation, it unraveled in kind of a crazy way. Now it's unraveling in an even more hilarious way where he's saying he felt out of shape, he didn't have a preseason, and it seems he wants to complain. Felt kind of weird out there. He was kind of winging it. What's your own perspective on this situation?
I mean, he got what he asked for. You really think about it, and, you know, he was the one who soured his relationship with the Sixers front office, despite him and Daryl Morey apparently being the best of friends. And in fact, I don't know if you saw this, but in Brooklyn tonight, they were chanting Daryl Morey every time Harden went to the free throw line. But I mean, Harden got exactly what he asked for. He, you know, wanted to be the number one guy. He said, it's either me or Doc. And the Sixers front office kind of had to sit there and think about it. And now eventually it's come to neither. So, I mean, it's entirely his fault, but you know what? It ended up working out so well for the Sixers. I had a really hard time seeing him fitting into a Nick Nurse lineup and just kind of fitting with his mantra and just the way he worked with the team. Yeah, it worked for like every once or so often when he felt like taking control of the game. You know, I'll never forget the 2 games where he put up 40 in the playoffs this past postseason. But then besides that, where did he go? I mean, we mocked Ben Simmons relentlessly for the goose eggs that he put up in that series against Atlanta that we all know too well. But Harden was just as bad. He disappeared just as much. You know, my main man, Charles Barkley on TNT, I mean, Harden was averaging a triple single, I'm pretty sure, out there. So, you know, he gets what he asks for. He doesn't get a postseason, doesn't get time to gel with the team. He decides to, you know, just be that guy in the locker room. And I mean, I don't know if anybody saw the videos, but when he walked into that Clippers locker room, there were a lot of guys who were not too excited to see him. Not so happy to see a superstar like we would have talked about the James Harden of, you know, a decade ago. So the Sixers ultimately won out by not keeping Doc Rivers, not keeping James Harden, getting a coach who actually knows what he's doing. And I mean, 6-1 and winning today as of this taping against the Celtics 106-103 in the regular season. I mean, how many times when you were watching the Sixers last season, you know, you can beat your Charlotte Hornets, you can beat your Chicago Bulls, you can beat all these garbage teams. But when it comes time to play the teams that you will definitely be seeing in the playoffs, in your Eastern Conference semis, in your Eastern Conference finals, because that's all we're asking. We just want to get out of this second round, man. We want to get out of these Eastern Conference semis once in my life, please. So the fact that, you know, you come up big in a 106-103 game, you know, Kelly Oubre has stepped up tremendously for this team. It's been absolutely great seeing him get inserted to the starting 5. Tyrese Maxey, I mean, think about what he did last year in the static Glenn Rivers offense. And now this year in the fluid, dynamic Doc Rivers, Nick Nurse offense. It's a beautiful thing to see, just fluid passing, breaking down the zone defense. That was our kryptonite in the postseason. As soon as teams started playing zone defense, we looked lost. We looked no better than a middle school team taking the court. That's what it looked like watching that team. But now all of a sudden, it just looks so different. And I hate to be that guy that says the coach makes all the difference, but really in today's NBA, you can load as much talent as you want on a roster. I mean, the Clippers are living proof of that. How many times have they landed that big splash, that big signing, all that money they're throwing at players? And where does it get them? A first round, second round exit. Maybe they make it to the Western Conference Finals if they have a prayer. But besides that, they're just a retirement home for all the NBA's aging stars. Look at them now. So, and now you've got an out of function James Harden who's complaining he's not fit again, complaining that he didn't get a preseason again. I mean, it's just all drama with him. He wants to go chip chasing, but he's clearly shown that he's not ready to do the work with it. So all this is a roundabout way of saying the Sixers have ultimately won out. They are in good hands. I've been telling everybody that I've talked Sixers with in the offseason, even as soon as Nick Nurse was hired, nobody wanted to talk about the Sixers. We just wanted to put them away, focus on the Phillies. But I'm happy to say that I've been saying since day one, Nick Nurse will change this team. And at 6-1 beating the Celtics tonight, it sure as hell looks like that is coming true.
I mean, you pretty much took all the words out of my mouth for the Harden situation. I mean, I have nothing else to say about that. So I have a follow-up question for you, Ben. Are they the real deal? I mean, you sound pretty excited as a fan. Is a championship, like you said, please stop the suffering. Are they the real deal this year?
I think the big asterisk over all of that is if they can stay healthy, they are absolutely the real deal. If they can stay healthy, keep all these guys in the lineup, and work with this high octane offense, not get tired. You know, you add a in-season tournament this year, so it'll be interesting to see how they manage that in terms of load management, in terms of, you know, Embiid. You know, we always have to cross our fingers because he always gets some kind of problem in the legs or in the knee that you just have to be, or the ankle that you have to be aware of. But if this Sixers team can stay healthy and can keep up with this pace in this Nick Nurse offense, which so far they have through 7 games on the season after tonight, I think they really could be the real deal, and you could be looking at finals contenders. I really do, just because it's just so they have all the pieces, and they've had all the pieces for so many years. I see you shaking your head over there, Jordan. I'd love to hear your excuse as to why the Sixers could not, because they just have the pieces now. They don't need all the stars. They've got. I mean, Joel is playing on a different level right now. He doesn't look lost. Everybody has a role to play when they step out on that court, which is 5 times better than anything that the Glenn Rivers offense could do. Because think about it. When Glenn Rivers, and I'm going to call him Glenn because he doesn't have my respect to call him Doc. He won 1 championship with 3 future Hall of Famers who have had multiple sources attest to that Glenn would draw up a play in a timeout, even in playoff games, but it wouldn't really be a play. Then the players would gather on the court. They would draw up their own plays and execute it on the court. And we saw those TNT timeouts over the playoffs. Come on. What are we doing? Wake up. Let's go. From an NBA coach? You're paying millions of dollars to this guy, and that's all he has to say in a playoff game in a timeout? Meanwhile, you see videos of Nick Nurse drawing like a madman, like he's got 2 minutes left in class to take all the notes because he slept through the lecture, drawing up these plays like a madman. I mean, it's just amazing what creativity he has. And with all these role players that are in this lineup, and what he managed to do with that Raptors team he won with the championship too. I mean, yes, he had Kawhi Leonard and Pascal Siakam and Kyle Lowry, but other than that, I mean, there were a lot of guys there that could easily be replaceable in today's NBA. So the fact that you give him another similar roster here with younger guys, the best young star in the NBA right now in Tyrese Maxey, the defending MVP in Joel Embiid, Kelly Oubre Jr., again, getting a renaissance so far this early season, and a bunch of other role players. They just got a bunch of great bench pieces. I mean, I don't see how you can look at this team and say they are not a contender.
All I got to say is our biggest kryptonite as a fan base is we always say this beginning of the season. It looked really good. What?
Oh, I was going to say Game 7 is our biggest kryptonite, but go on.
Well, yeah, but like we say this as fans, oh, they look really good, and then obviously they can't get past the second round. So I just am shaking my head because, okay, we can say this, yeah, they look good, but when it really matters, you know, can they overcome
our biggest kryptonite. I don't know, because as a fan, it's just frustration upon frustration. Yes, we have a better coach. We have better pieces now, but we thought that we had that last season, and look what happened. So that's just my 2 cents. So that's all I got to say.
Fair point. I mean, I think I'm in the middle. I mean, I've been let down so many times by this team that I don't want to get my hopes up, but Ben also has my hopes up. So I'm like stuck in between because I mean, the depth of this team I think is the real difference that you see in the future that this team has. So we'll see, but I know we touched a lot on the Sixers and we got a betting segment coming up next with Brad. So I do want to thank Ben for coming on for definitely not the last time. We'll have to bring you on again when we can chop this up a little bit longer. But thank you for bringing that expertise and that passion, because I'm telling you, none of us watch the Sixers as closely as that. So, I mean, you taught us all a bunch, for real.
Thank you, Shad. Appreciate it.
Hey, glad to be on. Thanks for having me, and look forward to returning.
Perfect.
Sounds good, brother. Talk to you.
Yeah, you too. See you, fellas.
And
love that, man.
That's all we got for the Sixers. Yeah, Salesianum legend. And if you guys like when we bring on Salesian Brothers, or if you are a Salesian brother and you want to come on the show, just shoot us a DM. I mean, we really don't say no to anyone, especially if you have an expertise like Ben. I mean, for the longest time I've known Ben, great dude, a great sports announcer, but never have thought to put the 2 and 2 together. So please, please, please. But I do want to bring on an expert on the show. Like I said, Jack and I have been pretty bad at betting lately. Matt couldn't even come on the show tonight. He's been so bad at betting lately. He didn't even want to show his face. But I do want to thank a friend of mine now, Mr. Brad Best Bets on Instagram. How are you tonight, sir? Welcome to the show.
Good to be on. Thanks for having me, buddy. I appreciate it. And by the way, it's not easy to win. If it was easy, everyone would be Bill Gates, right? I mean, they don't build these casinos for everyone to win. So don't be hard on yourself. It is not easy. I slave over this stuff. I mean, my fiance gets pissed at me how much I do this 24/7. 2:00 in the morning, I'm doing this. So I'm not normal, but it's you're not supposed to win. So remember that it's hard. Again, they're not making these sports bets so people can win.
So I have a question for you. I just realized I'm an idiot, number one, and it's the Eagles bye week, so I can't ask you any fun Eagles betting, so I'm just going to have to hit you up on Instagram then for that to get my advice. But as far as this week goes, do you have any interesting parlays, any bets down, any games that you're looking forward to watching? I mean, as an Eagles fan, there's nothing for us to do. You can relate. So, I mean, anything you're keeping your eye on NFL betting-wise this weekend?
Well, it's interesting, though. Like, everyone has a different specialty in sports gambling. Like, for me, what I specialize in most, it's not who do you like, Eagles, Cowboys. What I do the best in is props. How many yards will Jalen Hurts throw for? How many receiving yards will A.J. Brown get? You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Futures, who will win the division? How many games will a team win? Like, these sports books offer season wins after every game. And I can tell you a couple that I made this week, which I happen to like. They have the Rams at 7.5 wins. That was juiced under -170. But here's a team, Dalt, right now that's 3-6. Okay, so they've 8 games left. They're saying the Rams are going to go 5-3 with an injured Matt Stafford. I'm assuming Stafford will come back, but that's not for sure. I think they play 49ers again. They play Seattle. Their schedule was not easy. I think it's a long shot for that team to go 5-3, an extreme long shot. I bet the Carolina Panthers under 4.5 wins. Where are you going to get 4 more wins for this team? I mean, halfway through the year, they're going to win. They're going to win 4 more games. This is a bad team. And again, I think that because their preseason number was 7.5, they're still relying on that number a little bit too much. Those are the kind of bets that I make that I've had a lot of success with in season stuff. In terms of the games itself, I still do that. I bet over 46.5 in the Bengals-Texans game. Obviously, we saw C.J. Stroud last week, right? He was incredible. And Joe Burrow looks back online to the Joe Burrow that was, a top 5 player in pro football. I thought that number should have been closer to like 49-50 with the way Cincinnati's offense is playing. And, Houston has a good offense with Stroud. I thought that number was too low. I also bet over 44.5 in Seattle versus Washington. I think Washington is an underrated team, especially in the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, I don't think they're in any great shapes, especially trading their two best players potentially in Sweat and Chase Young. But offensively, they still have Terry McLaurin. Hal's played well, and they actually have an effective passing lineup. So I think they can score points. In Seattle, look, after facing a great Baltimore defense, they're now going to face much less defense, in Washington. I expect both those teams to get in the 20s. I like Seattle, that game to go over 44. Now it's 45.5. I think it'll still go over. And I also like Washington to cover the 6.5 point spread.
I like
Oh,
it. What's been your best bet that you've hit all season, or any big winners that you've had so far?
Yeah, well, I got fortunate. I just did have in June, I think it was June 10th, I bet, I had to be exact, so it's not easy. I bet the Texas Rangers to beat the Arizona Diamondbacks in the World Series at 400-1 odds. So that's obviously required a lot of stuff to happen, but sure enough, Texas did beat Arizona. I didn't bet a ton. I only bet $200, but paid $80,000 because it's 400-1. You don't have to bet much to get a nice payday. So that was probably in terms of this year. Last year, my biggest bet was the Sacramento Kings at 100-1 to win the division. They did win it. So I've been pretty fortunate in hitting some of these big long shots, but I always look for them. I always looking for value, and I'm not afraid to place a bet where I think the bet's going to lose. If you're going to give me 50-1 on something, I think happens 1 out of 20 times. 19 out of 20 times, you're going to laugh at me. But getting 50-1 odds long term, it's a great bet. And I'm willing to put in stuff I think it's going to lose if I think the value's there.
That's great advice.
Question I have for you is, do you use any different apps that you can base your bets off of? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah, it's
do you
a
have
good
anything to recommend?
question. Well, when I'm doing my props, there's a site called Bet Prep I use. And what Bet Prep does simply is it'll tell me, like for example, tonight, Tobias Harris over 13.5 points. It'll tell me what Tobias Harris has done over 13.5 points, his last 10 games, last 18 games, his last 79 games, his last 50 games, whatever you want to do, what he does against each opponent. So, and then once I get that, then I look at the games over under. There's so much stuff that goes into it, right? It's like when you bet one of these props, it's not just as simple as, well, the data is good, so I like it. You have to look at the game total to see if it's supposed to be a high-paced game or a lower-paced game, if you like the over or the under or whatnot. But yeah, Bet Prep definitely helps me in that. And every single bet, I try to almost become like a lawyer when I like something for the other side. I'm like, okay, I like Tobias Harris over 13.5, but let's poke holes at that. Like, I don't want someone just to tell me, yeah, it's a great bet, Brad. I want to find the weakness in the bet, why it may not be a good bet before I put in that bet, because I take losing very personally. So I try so hard to only put in stuff that's plus EV, plus expected value. And like, to me, that's what I'm always doing. And it's not easy, but it's fun. And for me, it's like a passion. And I get to do something that I love, guys, which a lot of people don't get to do in this world. And I'm always looking for that next, that next thing. Like the baseball, I bet Texas to win the World Series also at 80-1 before the year. So that's great, but now you're only as good as your last bet. I'm already looking at next year's baseball. I've already put some stuff down. By the way, Cincinnati Reds 75-1, Cubs 40-1, Mariners 20-1. Those are my 3 bets that I put in. Those I thought were the 3 bets at the most value.
Beautiful. I think you're a wizard. You're an actual wizard. I
got one question before you leave too, Brad.
Sure.
As an Eagles fan and a betting expert, do you bet on the Eagles often? Do you not bet on the Eagles often? Do you have that Phillies superstition when you bet on the Eagles? Like, you getting involved could mess up the mojo? How's that all work? I gotta ask.
Well, I actually do the Eagles pregame shows, from a betting point, on the Birds Huddle. So like I follow the team closely, obviously, or whatnot. But look, and some of you guys are going to hate me and you're going to get angry with me. But it's funny, the older I've gotten, and I'm still always, again, I'm a Philly guy forever. But it's more for me now. I'm engaged. I want my kids. I'm trying to provide for my family. So for me, I'm always trying to win the game. The 2 things I have the biggest softest spot for, where I sometimes struggle to hit that button if I want to bet against them, are the Sixers and Michigan. Anything with Michigan. I went to Michigan. And I still just love the school so much. But in terms of betting against the Eagles, no, like I had a bet on the Cowboys +4 last week, which was a great bet. The line closed at 3, and they lost by 5. But it was a great bet. And again, over the long run, I'm going to win more than I lose when I have big closing value line like that. But I would tell anyone who's listening, you don't want to get your emotions get the best of you. And the best advice I'll ever give is shop. Like when you go buy a car, you maybe usually look at more than one car dealership, right? You don't just take what the first dealer says, saying, all right, I want 26,000 for this car. You go to Joe next to the street, maybe he's at 25 too. You save $800, right? Every half point that you save in one of these games is worth an infinite amount. And it can make an average better, a good better, and a bad better, and average better, just by shopping and having more than one sports book. That would, to me, if there's everyone listening, if you did that, you took the time to all the sports books, always got that extra half point. If it's a future, you shop it, make sure you're getting the best price. That's going to go the longest way in helping you become successful.
Awesome. Appreciate you coming on the show tonight, Brad, and I wish the best for you. And your I may have to follow you on Instagram because I don't follow you yet to see what you got.
No problem. Anytime, guys. I enjoyed being on with you. Thank you. Yeah, it's Brad's Best Bets is all my stuff. I'm on Twitter there, and again, like I started a service. I've been doing great. Anyone is watching, listening, again, I win. I mean, it's, and I don't say that in a bragging way. I swear I don't. I just say it. About 1% of the people who do this win, and knock on wood, I'm in that 1%. So, I know what I'm doing, and it's what I do, 24/7.
Love it. Thank you again. Hopefully we'll get you back on the show.
My pleasure, guys. Anytime. You take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Brad.
That
was insane. That's was crazy. A nuts bet. That was some really good advice.
He's a wizard. He is a wizard.
Hang out with that guy.
No.
Man.
It was 400 to 1, but he placed 200 on it, which paid out 80.
280 grand. Yeah, 280.
No. He only won 80 grand. He placed 200 down. It was 400.
200 to 80. $200 to 80 grand. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. In those terms, yeah.
We're saying the same shit. Just like Jalen Hurts and Brian Johnson are probably saying a lot of the same shit on the field, but it's not translating well. See how I did that there? I mean, here's the thing, though. We brought this up in the group chat, and it doesn't feel like it, like Shard said. I agree with him. I mean, the Eagles' offense this year with Brian Johnson as the offensive coordinator has not felt as flashy as we've wanted, especially the first 6 games, we'll all say. But throughout 9 games, they're number 2 in points in the league, number 2 in yards, number 1 in first downs, and last but not least, they're top 5 in both rushing and passing yards. They have more points in 9 games this year than they did last year. So I ask you, gentlemen, are you satisfied? Are you happy with this offensive coordinator performance? Or, as Brad said earlier, are you trying to poke some holes in it and find the weaknesses? Because I think it may be a smoking mirror. We've had sort of an easier schedule. What do you think of Big Sean?
My overall seeing that graphic just makes me a lot happier, obviously. But I think it's just because we're so spoiled as a fan base, seeing what happened last year and just blowing through teams. But these are actually good games that he's putting together. Yes, obviously he has some downside to him, but that's every team in the league. You're not going to have good stats week in and week out. Now, the problem with the Eagles right now is that, yes, they're winning these games, which is really important. And the defense, it's either the defense that clicks or the offense that clicks. I'm just waiting for that complete game where they fully put it together, and then they could just be the most – they are scary, but they would be even more scary as a team throughout the whole NFL. But, yeah, seeing those stats, I mean, number 2 in points, number 2 in yards, number 1 in first downs, you just don't really put it together. But he's really putting really good games and getting it done, really. That's all I could say. So, I mean, after the bye week, I think he's going to come out firing against KC. I almost said K. Not Kentucky Fried Chicken, just Kansas City Chiefs. But yeah, I think he's going to come out firing. So we're all in for the ride, really.
Yeah, and I agree with Sean. I think this bye week is huge. We had 9 weeks of his offense, and now we have a whole week off to perfect it. And I think he'll come out
all cylinders firing against KC. I think we're gonna also the frustration of us losing the Super Bowl last year to the Chiefs. I think it's gonna be an effect as well. But again, number 2 in points. We probably are number 1. The only outlier is the Dolphins that had that 70 burger. So, I mean, obviously, I miss Shane Steichen. I think the offense looked more fluent last season than it does now. Again, we had Shane Steichen for 2 or 3 years. This is Brian's, going on the bye week, only 9 weeks, and then the off season as well. But I'm give him, give him some time. I think we will see this. I don't think it's a bad playing calling. I think it's totally different. I'm not a big fan of not utilizing Jalen, but again, Jalen has been kind of injured, as we did last season with the RPOs and the read options. But I'm not worried about it. I think he's gonna come out firing, and I'm excited to see what he can pull together for the Chiefs game.
I think the Hurts injury actually is the best thing that ever happened to Brian Johnson, because he was so uncreative beginning of the season, so obsessed, I'm gonna say, with calling a quarterback draw. How many times in the first 3 weeks did he call a quarterback draw with Jalen Hurts, right up the middle? But now, all of a sudden, he's learned, okay, I have to show the defense something different. I have to add a wrinkle to some of my plays. I can't call these vanilla plays. So I'll chalk it up to him being a rookie. I think earlier in the season he wasn't that great. Let's just be honest. He wasn't. He was calling dumb plays in dumb situations. He wasn't reading a situation at all. Oh, but as the season's gone on, he's kind of figured it out, added a few wrinkles to plays, gotten a little, dare I say, ballsier. Just he's put a little bit more risk into some of his plays. He's added some wrinkles to try to mix up the defense, give Jalen some looks to figure out, okay, are they playing zone? Are they playing man-to-man? And is there a spy on the field? Some of the pre-snap stuff he's adding to his plays, you can see. And that's something that has gotten Andy Reid to get great production out of his offenses out of the last few years. And it's something I think we could see with Brian Johnson getting a lot of great offensive stats as we've started to see. As obviously you just showed, they're number 2 in points and yards and number 1 in first downs. But I think that's more so everything post week 3 and 4, rather than if you look at his first 4 games of the season.
Yeah, I definitely think it has gotten progressively better as the season's gone on, for sure. I just think we had our hopes all, this is going to be a great match for Hurts and Johnson, because he's been with Hurts pretty much since high school or college. So we're expecting a lot more out of him, and he hasn't performed yet. But I think as the time has gone on, as the weeks have gone on, he's gotten a lot better with his play calling. So I'm excited. Like I said, I think he's going to come out firing against the Chiefs, and we'll see what we can do with that. That's all I got for that.
Which is actually a perfect bridge into
time for everybody's favorite part of the show, 302 Trivia, with your host, Jack Dalton, the mayor of Delaware.
Thank you to TickPick for that sponsorship. Tonight's question we have for you, Tom, have you seen me answer yet?
I didn't even see the question because I came on late.
No, read out the question. We have one more segment after this, so let the fans read it so that they can answer first.
Okay. And the banners are updated. So the question of tonight is, which Philadelphia Eagles player won numerous NFL Comeback Player of the Year award in 2010? Which Philadelphia Eagles player won numerous NFL Comeback Player of the Year awards since 2010 or in 2010 since 2010? A. Ellis Hobbs, B. Michael Vick, C. Leonard Weaver, or D. Jason Peters?
I'm actually so nervous about this one. I feel like I know it, but we'll see. I texted you my answer.
And then pull that graphic back up, though. So the leaderboard we have right now is fans are at 4. Matt is at
7.
7. Tommy's at 8. Dalton's at 4. Josh is at 4. Ash is at 6, and Sean is at 4. We'll give you the answer towards the end of the show.
Tommy, this is your chance to get away from everybody. You could take a
know.
2-score lead today.
Jack, I just sent you mine.
I
I'm
think we
guaranteed.
should all get a belt. Like for the winner of the trivia at the end of the season, like a wrestling belt. And then
Sure.
the winner of the trivia gets to take home the belt for the following season. So every episode of Tom Wants, Tom can just have that bad boy sitting on his shoulder then if he takes it home.
We'll see. We shall see what happens.
Might have to invest in that. I'll hit up Trophy Smack. But leading into our final topic of the night, and I want to thank you guys all who hung out with us tonight, all who jumped in. We already did a little bit of a Dallas breakdown, but it's a bye week. I mean, we have a little bit of time before the Chiefs game. If you guys aren't doing anything, not this Monday, but the following Monday, we will be at Klondike Kate's doing a Salesianum watch party. So if any Sally's alums are listening, come hang out, come say what's up, and come watch the Eagles. Hopefully, fingers crossed, take down the Chiefs. And what will definitely be I would say the most hyped game of the year. You're going to have the Kelseys, you're going to have Taylor Swift in the house, you're going to have Mama Kelsey. I mean, the stars are going to be there. But come hang out with us, watch it live on TV because we cannot afford to go all the way to Kansas City yet. Maybe the podcast will be there one day, but got to get my stuff on the wall first. Anyways, week 9 takeaways. I mean, that game, I wouldn't say it was everything we wanted. There were mistakes for sure, but I feel like it was a very good step, a positive step in the right direction for the way that this season has went. It felt like a commanding win. When we needed to make plays, we made plays. When Jalen Hurts needed to step up, when A.J. Brown needed to step up, they both stepped up. You had your mistakes, you had your issues, but I mean, that's every NFL game. At the end of the day, this team's freaking 8-1, and they find ways to win games. And that is a sign of a good football team. I learned that in 2018 when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. A sign of a good football team is it's just coming out and winning, finding ways to win. It doesn't matter, who's the best player. It doesn't matter who's padding the stats. It matters coming out with a W. So there's a lot for, I think, the secondary to work on specifically, in my opinion. They need a lot of work, but like somebody alluded to earlier in the show, you got Bradley Roby coming back. Eli Ricks seems to have grown a lot. Bradbury and Slay, I think this bye week is only going to be good for them. But now you got to go, hypothetically, 10 to 12 weeks to win that Super Bowl. So you have all this stuff going on right now that, you really, really need to rest up, especially that secondary. That's my biggest fear for heading into the playoffs. So that was my biggest takeaway. But at the same time, shout out to the D-line, too. When they needed to come out, they came out. Shout out to my guy. If you guys didn't know, like Jack said, it was my birthday earlier this week. Alyssa getting me one of the coolest gifts ever. Brandon Graham. Back when he used to wear 54. A lot of people don't remember that because Stuart Bradley actually had 55. I know Jack remembers Stuart Bradley. But in all seriousness, Brandon Graham came out clutch for the Eagles at the end of that, 2 sacks. And that's my biggest 2 takeaways. Defensive line looks stout. Secondary looks gone.
Yeah, I mean, we known this from the jump. Jalen Hurts is an animal. He went down injured, obviously, from DeMarcus Lawrence going for his knee. And then what's he do? Next play or two, he throws a dot to Devontae Smith and touchdown. So that just shows you his heart, his grit that he has. He's not going to give up against Dallas. He's going to keep pushing and pushing. Like I said earlier at the top of the show, like my biggest takeaway, my biggest concern I have is Bradbury got burnt all the time, and they exposed him. And he was one of our best secondary players, but he was exposed. Again, CeeDee Lamb is a dog. But I mean, that kind of scares me a little bit because this next couple of weeks we have the hardest, 3 weeks of play, and we can't be doing that because those mistakes he had, pass interference, which wasn't pass interference, can be costly in the long run. So I think this was huge for this team to go into the bye with a dub, so they can get all the bumps and bruises healed up, and like we talked about, Brian Johnson get his offense kind of squared away, and come back firing. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah, speaking about it, I mean, yeah, the biggest takeaway was that secondary. And going into the bye week and then coming out of the bye week, you got Bradley Roby coming back, I believe that's his name. So he's going to be back in that secondary, and he's been playing really phenomenal. Now, downside, you lose Nakobe Dean, but you also get back Cam Jurgens in that offensive line. But yeah, the takeaways of that Dallas Cowboys game was just the secondary. It was just getting burnt. As soon as they put up points, they were getting torched, or they were committing a penalty. So, yeah, I mean, there was always takeaways during that game, but the defense really stood up when it needed to, especially like Dalton said, Brandon Graham.
I just have I think you all hit the nail on the head. Secondary, D line, all that stuff, hit the nail on the head. I have two wrinkles to add into this. One, I have to quote one of our favorite running backs, Shady McCoy. Dak is ass. Dak, when he needed to, had a prime opportunity to put the Cowboys into a great position, steps out of bounds because he's afraid to take a hit. Sometimes in big moments, this is football. You have to take a hit. And what did Dak do? He stepped out of bounds because he ran too far to the sideline and didn't know where he was. He doesn't have a presence of mind to be a great player. Like Jalen's playing on one knee, took a shot, called a timeout, came right in and threw a dot like you said. So Dak is ass, and on a more much calmer note, Julio Jones has helped out this red zone offense tremendously. They look so much more efficient, and the field looks to have been opened up with a guy like Julio Jones in the red zone. And he might have a bigger role now that Dallas Goedert's out, but he's helped out this red zone offense a lot. That's the only other point I wanted to make on top of all the other great points everyone made.
One last thing, and then we can move on. My big concern too is we thought highly of Nakobe Dean. Do we think he is injury prone? You know what I mean? He played how many games has he played this year or in his career as an Eagle? Maybe five.
And that may be why we saw the draft stock fall so much. I mean, when you think about where we got him, though, I don't think it's fair to say that yet. I do have that thought in the back of my head. You're not wrong, dude. It's at some point you need to look at what he's supposed to be. But I think that's why Howie took him where he took him, because maybe Howie saw something that other GMs also saw, but maybe Howie also wanted to take that risk. I just think it's maybe the draft process actually is the reason that Nakobe Dean has had this problem, because, going into the beginning of that season, really through April, I would say, he was expected to be minimum top 20 pick, if not could have been top 10 with some of the rumors. And, when he's on the field, you can see his IQ at play. It's just limited times that he's been on the field. I think I will say that I will hop on that train, Jack, the Nakobe Dean is injury-prone train after next season, if it still happens. He just got here last year. Last year was his first year. And I think that football and obviously I think the two most physical positions in football, maybe three, linebacker, running back, and probably safety. Those are probably the first. Offensive line and defensive line both take it, don't get me wrong, but it's more close contact with that. Whereas those, you're actually charging up 10, 15 yards at a time, running across the field, hitting someone at full force. So that takes a toll on your body is what I'm trying to say. So linebacker that's a bigger dude too. It's not like a safety. I think, we're starting to see some of it, but after him, I mean, who's really our next guy up? I don't have confidence in anyone else.
That's really the issue. I mean, we should have gotten a middle linebacker in the free agency rather than Julio Jones. I mean, he played well against Dallas when he was in the Kobe. Dean played well. Just a matter of long term, like, what are we gonna do with him?
Now, see here, I do agree with everything he's saying, but I think another big takeaway that we were on is I think TJ Edwards, you should have resigned last season because he was such a great linebacker. And I mean, I think you could have got him for a decent price. But I mean, you have Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow. But I think what Dalton was saying is very, very true about Nakobe Dean. Now, I think, he wasn't injury prone and he was at Georgia playing. Obviously, we all know that. But the thing is he has a very, very high IQ. IQ. And he's a very smart football player. I can't speak right now. Smart football player. It's just, I don't know. He might be injury prone. I just think he's too small for his position. Too small in the NFL for his position, and that's why a lot of GMs passed up on him. Now, I didn't expect him to drop to the 3rd round, but I mean, nobody did. But I think that's a lot of people that thought there were better picks out there. Now, I mean, because he's only 5'10" as a linebacker. I think you got to be at least 6'1" to be a good linebacker. 6 foot, 6'1". So I think he just is a little bit too small, and we'll see how it is. But it's not good for him to have the same injury twice in a season.
And we'll see, we're about to see the answer of this trivia question.
I got you. Here we go.
Time for everybody's favorite part of the show, 302 Trivia, with your host, Jack Dalton, the mayor of Delaware.
Man, that's a beautiful man that's in charge of this topic. Thank you, Tick, again for that sponsorship. The question we had for tonight was, which Philadelphia Eagles player won numerous NFL Comeback Player of the Year awards in 2010, or through 2010? Which Philadelphia Eagles player won numerous NFL Comeback Players of the Year through 2010? A. Ellis Hobbs, B. Mike Vick, C. Leonard Weaver, and then D. Jason Peters. The answer we have for you is B. Mike Vick.
Oh.
And so the answers we gave, Tom said Jason Peters.
It's the first one.
That was a good guess. That was what I was afraid of. I knew it was either Peters or
Vick. I thought he said since 2010 because I figured, well, Jason Peters had a few significant injuries and then it came back and had major seasons. He probably misphrased it. Shocker, Jack, misphrasing a question. And
I took it though. See, that's how long I've known Jack that I can read through him, and I got it right. So maybe it's
no matter what.
Mount Avion boys hitting you with the back door, Tom.
Dalt said Mike Vick, correct. Sean said Mike Vick, correct. Ashley said Mike Vick, correct. And then we had homie, what's his face? Where is this man? Anthony Tony, and he said B. Mike Vick. So that is the answer. Give me the scoreboard again.
Yep.
We'll update this again. Fans are now at 5. Matt didn't vote. Tommy stays at 8. Dalton is now at 5. Ash is now at 7, and then Sean's now at 5. And we'll update that for next week. But
Josh appreciate at 3.
Yeah, I mean he hasn't been on half the time. Dawn, I don't know if you want to say anything. I'm just gonna end the show. Any last remarks, anything like that?
Yeah, just one final reminder, guys. If you're listening to this, anytime during the week from November 8th to November 14th, if you're looking for something to do that Monday, watch Monday Night Football somewhere, come hang out with us. If you're a Sally's alum, or I believe the general community can come, you can confirm that with me by DMing me. But come hang out with us at Klondike Kate's regardless. A great place to watch the Eagles game on the heart of Main Street. We have been lucky enough to do a ton with them this past NFL season. We've been lucky enough to go 8-1 this past NFL season. Big things are on the way for an in-person podcasting experience. The furniture's here. Roxy has already made herself comfortable right there behind the ring light, as you guys can see. I'm going to have this bad boy rocking after this weekend. So once that's done, I mean, we're going to start filming some in-person content in here, getting some guests. So, I mean, if you're a credible guest and you think you want to come on as one of our first guests, please shoot me a DM. Let me know why. We already have the first one booked. I won't tell you guys who. I'll let you guys find out. I know the people in here know. But it's a close friend of 302 Birds, and I'll leave it at that. But like I said, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Make sure to follow us on all streaming platforms, and please write us a review if you can on Apple Podcasts if you haven't. That is a huge way to thank us. And other than that, baby, God bless, go Birds, and shout out to the Titans and shout out to the Cowboys. Cowboys for being a constant fuck up. I'm going to send you guys a Christmas card this year. And like Tom said, to quote the famous Shady, that I think was the best quote of the night, Tom, Dak is ass. He's ass. So I'll kick it to Jack.
Yes. So thank you to all our sponsors for the show. Appreciate everything you do for us. It means a lot to us.
Sorry, one thing we brought up, I forgot to bring up. Nick's Pizza. They just opened up a new location, so please go check it out in Wilmington in person. The pizza's delicious. I had it Friday night with Alyssa. It's definitely worth it. But go ahead, Jack. Sorry, my fault.
Yeah, without further ado, we will end the show. Josh, it's a fucking outro, not an intro. Hit that outro, please.
Next week, Jordan will learn how to play questions properly.
Next week, Brad is going to teach Jordan tripping questions. I can't even say.
Bye week, baby. Bye week.
Dak is ass. He's ass.
Tommy is ass at trivia.
I'm still kicking your ass though.
I don't get to.
I said Dak is ass.
Can you? I don't know why I can't end it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go.
See you, Tommy.